Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys in California. Before I begin, give all praise it's the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brother, we got some great information coming this evening. Some great information that the Most High and the nation has come together to bring to the world. We're going to be looking at the importance of the number 7. You're going to realize, like, our scriptures are way deeper than anyone could imagine. And these prophecies that are playing out are much more in depth than anyone could have imagined, especially when you sit here listening to the Gentiles trying to break down prophecy, and you're going to see that they got it all wrong. The Most High has written all of these events in the stars, showing us in eclipses, showing us again the importance of number 7. And how, the Most High deals with the Most High, his people, and all these different things. You're going to get into this right now. You're going to get into this book right here, Numbers in Scripture, its supernatural design and spiritual significance. This book here is from 1894. And you're going to see why they hide these kinds of books. Once you get this kind of information and you try to apply it to the people of today, it just doesn't fit. Things just don't fit. See, they put Ish in the land, and they talk about the last 70 years and how that's all fulfilling prophecy. But you got to go way back further than just 70 years. These people need to be fulfilling prophecy for a much longer period than just 70 years. In order to prove that you are the Most High's chosen people, 70 years is not a long enough period to prove that the Most High is dealing with you and that you are the Most High's chosen people. Check this out. First thing, we've always heard about the 400-year prophecy, and Genesis 15:13. And they always try to say, that has to do with, Israel and Egypt. And see, these books like this prove that these Gentiles have known the whole time that was not the fulfillment of Genesis 15:13. They know that 430-year period that the Israelites were not enslaved for 430 years. These Gentiles wrote these things in books. But these churches have ran with those prophecies and those breakdowns this whole time, thinking that we would never research. And at the time, we didn't have to research because, we were under the curses. We just believed everything that you told us. But at the end, the Most High was going to turn his face back to us. And as part of prophecy, that the Most High was going to start to deal with his people once again. He was going to be dealing with us over a 7-year period, which is like the mark of the end days. And when you look at that 2017 to 2024 time period, has not the Most High been dealing with us for these last 5 years? Has our understanding not increased exponentially in the last 5 years? Has not the Most High been given the business to the other nations and breaking us away from the other nations for the last 5 years. And every year, it's the heat is turned up again and again and again. And I anticipate these last 2 years is going to get nothing but worse for the other nations. Check this out. 400 is the product of 8 and 50 and is a divinely perfect period. From the fulfillment of the promise to Abraham and the birth of Isaac to the Exodus was a period of 400 years. Stephen mentions it as dating from his seed, Acts 7 and 6, and God's dates it from the same point when he says to Abraham, thy seed, Genesis 15:13. It is popularly confounded, with quite a different period of 430. See, the Gentiles have always just ran that 430 year period and said, oh, that was the fulfillment of that prophecy. Nothing to see here. Keep it moving. But one of the family members made a great point, talking about, well, if Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, then why would he be talking about a prophecy that was already fulfilled before he even wrote, the Bible? It's supposed to be like a future. So this is a future prophecy. It wasn't already fulfilled during the time of Moses. This is something that's going to happen again in the future. But check this part out right here. 430 years, which though it has the same point as to its termination, does not commence at the same point. From the call of Abraham, or the promise made to him at the call, Genesis, was it 12 and 3, unto the Exodus was 430 years. This covers the whole period of the sojourning, not of Abraham's seed, as in Genesis 15 and 13 and Acts 7 and 6, but of Abraham himself. So this is a sojourning period of Abraham. It has nothing to do with his seed. So this whole thing with his seeds going through all these different things is a future prophecy. This is what is mentioned in Galatians, right there, 13:17, as the period from the promise to the law. It is referred to also in Exodus 12 and 40, where the sojourning is a nominative case or subject of the verb, while the sentence, who dwelt in Egypt, is merely a relative clause, defining parenthetically an important point concerning them. So this is a whole sojourning period, that 430 years. It was not the fulfillment of those prophecies, and it was a sojourning of Abraham, not of his seed. So showing you that it is 2 separate events. When it's 400-year prophecy, it's 430-year sojourning time period. Now, let's continue. I want you to check this part out right here about Israel and how the Most High deals with Israel. Let's see where I want to start here. Start at the top, not all the way at the top, but this is the first natural division of time is stamped by the number 7. On the 7th day, God rested from his work of creation, when he ordained the ritual for Israel, which should show forth his work of redemption. 7 is again stamped upon it, in all its times and seasons. The 7th day was the holy day. The 7th month was specifically hallowed by its number of sacred festivals. The 7th year was a sabbatical year of rest for the land, while 7 times 7 years mark the year of Jubilee. 30 Jubilees bring us from the Exodus to the opening of Christ's ministry. When opening Isaiah right there, he proclaimed the acceptable year of the Lord and the 7-fold prophecy. The great symbolical divisions of Israel's history, or rather of the times of the God's dealings with them, are marked by the same number. And if we confine ourselves to duration of years rather than to the succession of years and chronological dates, okay, with Kairos season, a definitely limited portion of time, rather with chronos time, the course of time in general. Okay, hence our word chronology. We shall have no difficulty. God's dealing with his people have to do with actual duration of time rather than with specific dates. And we find that his dealings with Israel were measured out into 4 periods, each consisting of 490, 70 times 7 years. Okay? Thus, the first period from Abraham to the Exodus. Second, the Exodus to the dedication of the temple. The third, from the temple to Nehemiah's return. And the fourth, from Nehemiah to the second advent. Okay? It is clear that these are periods of duration, having regard only to Israel and to Jehovah's immediate dealings with them. For in each one, there is a period of time during which he was not immediately governing them, but in which his hand was removed, and his people were without visible tokens of his presence with them. And those kind of things that you can see have happened with the true Israelites here in the last days. There have been times in which the Most High's hand was removed, and his people were without visible tokens of his presence with them. That's why these other nations are like, where's your God now? While they're doing all these horrible things to us. Because the Most High had removed his covering from us. That's why just going over these last 70 years and saying that Ish is a people, while Ish has been blessed for these last 70 years. Where's all the other hundreds of years of when the Most High has been dealing with the other nations, when he's been dealing with Ish in a negative way? Where are all those examples? Because you're going to see right here that there's a whole lot of events going on that have to fulfill these 490-year periods. So you just can't be showing up to the party in the 1940s and then acting as if you're the people. Check out that first part right there. From the birth of Abraham to the Exodus was at 505 years. But deducting the 15 years while Ishmael was Abraham's seed, delaying the seed of promise, 15. So that's how you get that 490. So you can see how the Most High, there's a whole lot of events going on to show that the Most High has been dealing with Israel. Check out the next one, part 2. From the Exodus to the foundation of the temple, according to Acts 13 and 20. You got in the wilderness 40 years, under the judges 450 years, Saul 40 years, David 40 years, Solomon 3 years. So you got 573 years, right? Next page. But from these, we must deduct the captivities under Cushan, Eglon, Jabin, Midianites, Philistines. Minus 93, there's your 480, right? It says, to this, we must add the years during which the temple was in building for the finishing of the house. Okay? And at least for the furnishing and ending of all the work. There's your 10 more years, 490. You see, it's not as easy as just looking from one date to another date and then figuring it all out. It's a whole lot of adding things, subtracting things. It's a lot more complicated than just that. Look at 3. I'm leaving this here so much you guys can read it for yourselves and get this information on your own and do some of your own research, okay? From the dedication of the temple to Nehemiah's return in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, 560. Deduct the 70 years captivity in Babylon, leaving 490 years. See, Most High is dealing with Israel for long durations of time. So if you want to come and say that someone is a people, then you need to be going backwards and showing how these people have been fulfilling prophecy, not just the blessings for the last 70 years, how they got a nation, how they have one of the best militaries, how all these nations are now blessing them and giving them all this money every day. Where's all of the hundreds of years of dealing with multiple captivities, multiple, destructions by the other nations? Whereas all the other times of the Most High's turning his head away from his people, where the other nations are mocking the Israelites, saying, "Where's your God?" Because the Most High turns his face away at times. So again, number 4, from Nehemiah's return to cutting off of the 7 weeks. Okay? Hold on. Cutting off of the Messiah and the Prince. The 7 weeks. 7 times 7. The 62 weeks. Okay, so you got that right there. 49 plus 434, 483. You guys can read the stuff at the bottom on your own, okay? Oops. Why is there more information down there? Hold on here. Hold on. I thought I had the other page already on there. What? Hold on. Okay, well, I'm going to read it, okay? I'm going to continue. This is page 7, okay? So he has, after this, Messiah was to be cut off. And then comes this present interval, the longest of all, now more than 1,890 years, to be followed when God again deals with his people, Israel, by 1 week, which is 7. So if you look right here, you got 483. Then you're going to have a period of 7 years, right? So again, you got the 483, and then it's kind of like been in a holding pattern, what it seems like. So we got the 483. Then it says, after this, Messiah was to be cut off. And then comes this present interval, the longest of all, now more than 1,890 years, to be followed when God again deals with his people, Israel, by 1 week, 7 years. So think about that. Is that what this is talking about? This 7-year period where the Most High is now dealing with his people, Israel, once again. Just think of all of the things the Most High has been doing with us since 2017. Think of all of the understanding the Most High has given us. Think of how much he's raised us up in these last few years. This is just absolutely amazing. So you had like a holding pattern for 1,890 years, at least. Well, when this book was written. It's been even longer than that. But there's going to be a 7-year or 1 week period where God again deals with his people. So we know that for a very long time, there's going to have to be you're going to have a track record of the Most High not dealing with your people for almost 2,000 years. We can go back into history and look at all the horrible and heinous things that have been happening to our people for the last couple thousand years. The other people right now, they can't go back and show you 2,000 years of ill treatment. They can't do that because they don't fit these prophecies. So as you can see, our history alone proves who we are. It also exposes the other nations. You see, these guys are trying to go and look at events that are going on right now and show how that is the fulfillment of prophecy, or how they're going to be raptured away and then the last 7 years begins. But see, while we're waiting for those last 7 years to begin, and while you're in this holding pattern, your people, the Most High's chosen people, were going to be getting destroyed. It was going to look as if the Most High has turned his face away from them. So therefore, in order to find the true people, that the Most High is going to be dealing with, you got to look for those examples. You got to look for the ones that are at the bottom, the ones that have been treated horribly, the ones that have not received justice, the ones that the whole world doesn't care about what has happened to them. As I'm looking at all these people talking about what's going on over there in the Ukraine, trying to make little sob stories to pull at your heartstrings, talking about these, the poor orphans, and how we gotta give this money for this, and you can donate $10,000 for that in order to help the poor orphans. But see, that there alone shows you, have those people been going through this mess for 2,000 years? Have they been getting destroyed and no one's cared about them for the last couple thousand years? If they haven't, then those aren't the ones you're supposed to be blessing at this point. You're supposed to find the lowest of the low, the ones at the bottom. And as you go back over here, you see all these examples, how the Most High has been dealing with Israel. They're going in and out of captivities, being destroyed, fighting with the other nations. But this last one, from Nehemiah's return to cutting off of Messiah the Prince, okay? There's a 49 right there, the 3 score in 2 weeks, 434. Add them up, 483. And now we're in a holding pattern for the last 7 years. And that fits perfectly because the Most High has been dealing with Israel. He's been dealing with the true Israelites. And the rest of the world, many of them, most of them, have been oblivious to what's really been going on. We see it. We see the fact that the other nations have no clue. We see that their prophecies are falling, flat on their faces every single day. We're going to be getting into this book a lot more with these numbers. You just see how the Most High has put our story in the stars, and it's absolutely amazing. All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who was wisdom? Who was the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.